but it has honestly happened very organically, which is cool. But
Very cool.
I never expected that it would have grown as fast as it did.
Mhm.
Oh, this is major. It's like the next big thing. Come catch the wave, yeah. Yeah, watch what's happening. A force of nature. Hit 'em like lightning. Be the creator of the next big thing. We're the movers and shakers. We are the dreamers, the makers. We stand on top of equators. We are the limitless. Got the future, no papers. We are the innovators. We have the focus like lasers. You know we doing it big. Oh, this
Welcome to the Compromise to Alchemized podcast with me, your
major.
host, Dr. Neil Bolton-Donnie. I am excited to be interviewing Nicole Cantello from Santa Barbara Myo on the podcast. And I'm recording from Santa Barbara Myo. That is my location here in Santa Barbara. Of course, I have my own office that's adjoined. But it's the origin story of me in Santa Barbara is that before I ever moved and I visited, I was seeing patients out of Nicole's office where she was before she moved into this location. Actually, it was just once, I think, one trip that I saw people in her office when she wasn't using it, which was the weekend. So she's come a long way, but that is her, and you're going to hear more about her story, the vision, not only of what led to her creating this amazing environment here at Santa Barbara Myo in its current location on State Street, but also what led her to myofunctional therapy in the first place. And we kind of talk about the multiple ways that she has made her mark, not just in helping care for people, but also in terms of building a team. And so we'll give shout outs to the team. Myra, who is the receptionist here. She's wonderful. If anybody's ever been here, they are greeted by her, and she's very kind, very outgoing. She's also the plant healer, keeps all the plants alive. Nicole, I'm just going to say, she's got an excellent aesthetic eye to just the decor and all the furniture and everything. The look and the feel is so nice. Everything from like walking in the waiting room, and there's just a kids area that's really dedicated. Great books, also for parents and kids, but just a great area. My kids love. They come in, they just love playing. They're like, Dad, they don't want me to hurry. They don't want me to finish whatever I need to do. They want to take time because they love playing here. So yeah, it's a really great privilege to get to interview Nicole and to present her to those of you who have not met her. Um, she also has on her team Emily and also Danny, as well as Lindy, and then also Val. And so they're the other myofunctional therapists who are on her team. And it's quite an environment of, you know, positivity and excellence. And Lene is also in right outside my door is the massage therapy area where Lene is, and she's a very skilled massage therapist that does a lot of different like lymphatic and craniosacral. She sees baby, at least pediatrics up, and so there just really is such a great center here. And let me tell you a little bit more about Nicole, though. So I'm going to more read her bio here just to make sure that I cover some of these points. So, and yeah, SantaBarbaraMyo.com. What a great website. What a great name. I totally talk about this, but I'm like, what a great name. That's such a great company name. So for those of you who know, Nicole started as a registered dental hygienist, and then she went down the rabbit hole of looking into myofunctional therapy. And she's done multiple trainings, not just the Myo Mastermind program, but she's also done Myo Mentor, Barbara Green's, the Healthy Growth, Healthy Faces, the Breathe Institute's Myo Workshop, and Also, she's done Breathe Institute's TMD considerations in myofunctional therapy. But yeah, she's just constantly learning. She's going to many like multifaceted trainings. Dr. Gunson's training, he's a renowned jaw surgeon who's here in the area, so she's been to trainings of his. That's just to mention a few. It was a great privilege to have her in for part of the training that I did here just last week on the floor for and the FMDI, functional mandibular diaphragmatic integration. So I talked about the training some, but yeah, her mother-in-law was here as a demo, and it was just phenomenal to, of course, meet her and to get to demonstrate for my students, the attendees, how to go about certain cases. But also, it was really cool to have Nicole in um, during the training and just what a beautiful world we're part of in helping those with these issues that relate to the orofacial complex. And there's just, so much more to say about that. Nicole has the not only the reputation here in the area as a phenomenal resource in myofunctional therapy for Santa Barbara, but surrounding areas. And of course, as we mentioned, she's collaborating with those in LA, like Dr. Saru Shizagi, Dr. Tim Yu, and others. So, what a great conversation. I can't wait to see what you think. And also, I'll mention that um, still riding the nice afterglow, after euphoria of my training. Been in conversation with some of the attendees and just seeing how wonderfully they're implementing things. And I'm also excited because I've been on a couple podcasts and I'm talked about my upcoming Cosmic Mandible webinar that I'll be doing. So I'm calling it Cosmic Mandible, but Cosmic Jaw, that's another word. But also I wrote a Substack article, so I encourage you all to take a look at that. And I posted it on Instagram as well. But it is my discussion on the cosmic jaw as a way to free the jaw, but also the correlation between the jaw and the ankle, but more specifically, the moonwalk. Of course, Michael Jackson, huge fan of his from back in the day. And I'm not really talking about the moonwalk per se, but what I am talking about is how pivotal it is to consider this two-way street of the floor of the mouth to the whole body, and especially the jaw to the whole body. But then I am going to be getting into the mandibular glide and some other concepts around how I see the mandible can be free from babies to adults with some really simple moves. And one of them is kind of like a dance move. So I am excited for y'all to look out for those updates so you can come and attend that webinar that will be virtual. So, okay, without further ado, I will go ahead and say, have a blast listening to and enjoying this episode, and looking forward to seeing what you think.
This is major.
Hey, Nicole, I'm so happy to have you with me here.
Thank you.
Welcome to your office, Santa Barbara Myo. We're in your epic office here in Santa Barbara. We were talking off camera, right? That's the thing. We're talking off camera about this interview, and for me, I just go back to like how cool it was when I reached out to you that we were visiting the area, because moved here a year ago from Reading, which is the top of the state. Now we're here in SoCal-ish, and you were just like ready for like collaboration, and you offered me your office space, and you said, "Yeah, you can use it." That was when you had one spot,
Yeah.
right? A little bit down the road. Fast forward months, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna visit again, and I think we're gonna stay for longer, and we might move here." And you're like, "I got this spot that I'm looking at," and you showed me the photos.
Yeah.
What it looked like then and what this office looks like now is crazily different. You have such a We're going to talk about your myofunctional therapy, your practice. You built this amazing collaborative flow that you've been in, and of course some of your mentors, but also you're now mentoring others. Um, so we're going to talk about all that, but like aesthetics and design and the way like people come into this office, including me, and they feel like, wow, this vibe is amazing. This aesthetic is beautiful. So I feel like you've really like so many skills wrapped up into one. But
Thank you.
yeah, so then to come into this office and be in a couple spots, and now in my new location right here in this spot of yours where it's got this amazing view, I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm just thankful. And I really thank you for making our move in terms of my practice like just smoother and for the opportunity and the willingness you were to like work it out and to have me in your spot so we could, of course, be in the same place, collaborate. It's been so good. So I just want to thank you for that. Of course, welcome you to the Compromise Alchemized podcast.
Thank you so much for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here. This is the first podcast I've ever done.
Yeah.
So it's exciting and new. But
Mhm.
but yes, I mean I had known who you were and heard of you. So when I heard that you were coming to the area, of course, I was super excited to meet you and get to work with you and learn more about the services that you provide. And you've helped so many of our patients. You've helped me, you've helped my family. So I'm really grateful to have you here.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you here and good to be here. So this is the first of many. I mean, I'm just aware you're going to be talking a lot. People are going to want to know more about you. It's naturally going to come about, but also I just know you're going to be sharing a lot, and
Thank you.
that's what I want to dig into. Actually,
Sure.
is another cool moment was when I was in San Francisco at the World Dentofacial Sleep Society Congress. I was presenting there, and I came across Melissa Mugno,
Mhm.
and she's like, "I've been following your stuff," and she was telling me about this, but you came up early in conversation, really early, and she's like, "Nicole, oh yeah, she's got vision." She told me how impressed she was with you in terms of like somebody that you know she gave you insight and in that time she just saw how um what vision you had,
Mhm.
what goals you had, and I think behind that the energy you put into and the point that you make to like really excel, and of course like in this endeavor it's for helping people heal in all
Sure.
kinds of ways. So Melissa and I were both sharing that moment, and it was kind of a wild moment, because since then we've collaborated and all these worlds cross over so much. So I feel like yeah, there's the visionary part. From the moment I've met you and the moment even hearing Melissa, like I'm like, oh, Nicole is such a visionary, and how much you've done in a short period of time is really special. And I can only imagine, like, what if we fast forward, pan forward? You've already done so much in a year of me just being here in this
Mhm.
office space. So, um, yeah. First of all, that's I want to like make sure I'm saying like I see how much you do. You're very humble and
Thank you.
you play down a lot, but I think those that are around you and that know you are like, there's such a significance on the care and the efforts that you put, and we'll get into more of like where that comes from because I feel excited about delving into that.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a wild last few years. It's crazy if you would have asked me like 4 years ago even
Mhm.
if I would be doing this, like if I'd have, my own business and being able to help the community in this way. I mean, it just wouldn't have at all been on my radar.
Mhm.
So it has been a very, very cool last few years, a lot of stretching and growing. And it's been, I feel super, super blessed. And I've had incredible mentors like Melissa. The first myofunctional therapy course that I took was my mentor.
Mhm.
And that was a great course. I met incredible people there, and they really gave me those like initial building blocks to use to start helping people. And then I did, because I didn't know anything about business, I took Melissa's business course
Oh
through
yeah.
my mentor with Dave Hendrickson.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they are both lovely people,
Yeah.
so encouraging. Really, really fantastic course to like help get myofunctional therapists just like off the ground and, business things that no one really knows about, right?
Mhm.
Until you do it yourself. And so, yeah, Melissa's fantastic. I love her. And it's a niche community, this
Yeah.
airway field. So many of us, we get to know each other, and everyone in this field is just fantastic, and I'm honored to be a part of it for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know Dave was part of that.
Yeah.
Because Dave, I finally met him at the Breathe and Thrive Symposium in Vegas,
Uh-huh.
and I watched his presentation, and then we sat next to each other at a dinner with some others. Melissa wasn't there; she was visiting family, but Dr. Baxter and some
Mhm.
others. And I got to know him, and I'm like, oh, okay, I
So
really,
great.
yeah. So, well, it's so cool because I feel like he's so grounded,
He
so
is.
practical,
Yeah.
yet at the same time doing very like forerunning things. And I
Mhm.
mean, I just have to say, of course, like I want to know, have you paint the picture of like what it was like right before, like how you started.
Sure.
But a myofunctional therapist, you are trailblazers. Like you are the liaisons for care. You are the field that grew out of this oral facial complex issue. And
Yeah.
so I I've said it a lot at times, but I need to say it more. And of course, I credit lactation consultants who are IBCLCs and whatnot who get a lot of education about that, and that's huge. And all the pediatric dentists and all the people out there who,
Yeah.
but myofunctional therapy, it needs to be like, it's like, well, that's the field that grew out of the need of what has been the predicament and the problem with
Yeah.
narrow arches and all these issues like TMJ, and you could speak to a lot of that.
Yeah.
So you are part of this pioneering field that emerged from the need.
Yeah.
Course, we go back a long time, but
Mhm.
at least in the last, century.
Yeah.
But it's been an issue that's been increasing are
Mhm.
those that have like clenching and grinding and tongue tie and all these other oral restrictions. So, but yeah, could you like paint the picture on because you started out as a RDH, like a
Yes.
registered dental hygienist, dentist,
Yeah.
and where did you start? Where did you go to school and where did you start?
So I went to dental hygiene school in Boston.
Oh yeah, okay.
Kind of an interesting story that led me to actually starting dental hygiene school. But I mean, I was always obsessed with teeth. From like a very young age, I said I wanted to be a dentist. And, you know, college time comes, and at that particular moment in my life, I wasn't super interested in like, I just, to be honest, wasn't really serious about education.
Mhm.
And looking back, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that. But it's part of my story and it's what got me here. So I'm very grateful that it all unfolded the way that it did.
Mhm.
So I am from Northern California, Tracy. And then I moved to Santa Barbara, actually, even before I turned 18. And, my parents were like, we are not paying for anything. We don't want you moving. We're not, XYZ. And so I'm like, that's okay. I can do it. And so I moved away, started supporting myself ever since then.
Mhm.
And looking back, I think that that's probably part of what has made me so independent
Mhm.
and successful is you know, good or bad, I had to be resourceful and just kind of figure out how to survive on my own at a, kind of a younger age. But
Mhm.
anyway, so I started taking classes at Santa Barbara City College, which anyone in this area knows what a beautiful campus it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, really beautiful.
I was away from home. I had kind of grown up with like in a stricter household. So at the time, as I said, education wasn't top priority. So I had enrolled in classes and didn't really take them serious, wasn't going a ton. And I did that for about 2 years. And then I was like, what am I doing with my life? And really got clear with what I wanted to do, which was pursue dental hygiene. And so as soon as I made that transition from like not caring to actually caring,
Mhm.
it was like a total game changer. I mean, my my transcript was like horrible before, and then, and I'm getting like embarrassing grades
Mhm.
with like English and art and these classes that are, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And then I switch and I start taking all of these sciences and, microbiology and anatomy, physiology, all of
Mhm.
all of these, pretty challenging courses, and I'm getting all A's. And so I finished my prerequisites for dental hygiene. But because of all of the damage that I had done with, the first 2 years of doing nothing, my GPA was, I think, like 2.9, almost 3.0. And dental hygiene, it's a competitive field to get into when you're applying
Mhm.
into actual programs. So there's about a year or 2 of prereqs, and then you get into the program, which is about 2 years. And I start sending applications and I'm getting denials.
Hmm.
And, you know, at the time it's heartbreaking, of course, as you can imagine. I'm like, okay, I'll try again next year. Send applications, denials. And it was because of my GPA. Like it didn't matter that I had all A's in my prereqs. It my GPA brought me down.
Right.
And so um we at that time, we actually had decided to move to Boston. We were going to a church here in town and they were starting a church in Boston where we wanted to go with to help kind of get it set up. We weren't on staff or anything. And I remember thinking, there's no way if I can't get in California, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get in. But we both felt really called to do that. And so that was just like a little bit of a submission. And I had kind of like given up in a sense of that dream. And so we moved to Boston. The first year we helped get this church started. And and then I had the thought come into my mind, maybe I'll try. You know, I'm going to start looking into schools and um, I found some colleges that I could apply to, and I had to take a couple of extra courses. So I did those while I was working at a pediatric dental office. And I'm like, okay, this is literally the last time that I could apply because all of the science prerequisites expire after 5 years
Okay.
and then it's game over,
Well,
right?
yeah.
So you'd have to take them again. So I'm like, this is the last time. Like, if it doesn't happen, this is it. And so I took the courses that I needed to. I sent my application and I got a letter that I did not get in.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I was devastated. I
Yeah.
went and got an ice cream and went and got a pedicure and I cried
Yeah.
while the the person was doing my feet
Oh my gosh.
while I'm eating an ice cream.
That
It
was
was an
so
image.
like, yeah. You eating ice cream, getting pedicure, crying. So the person was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that that was done. And then about a week goes by and I'm like, "You know what? I'm not ready to give up.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's anything else that I can do." And so I look there at the time there was a fantastic program in Newton and it was really well known, also really hard to get into. And I said to myself, I'm going to go there and I am going to speak with the dean.
Mhm.
I'm going to speak with the director of the dental hygiene program. I'm going to bring my transcript and I'm going to plead my case. And
Yeah.
so I set up an appointment with her. Her name was Jason Stoltz, and I sat down with her and she listened to me. You know, she looked at my transcript and she was like, "What's going on here? Clearly you can do this, but
Yeah.
like what changed? What happened?" And so I told her my story and at that specific year, they had so their wait list was like insane.
Mhm.
But that specific year they had extended their clinic and they had like 6 extra chairs. And so because of that, they were allowing in a few extra students. And she said there's literally one spot left. She's like, "I'm gonna give it to you."
Wow.
And and that was
Wow.
it. And so
That's powerful.
that's how, yes, long story short, it truly felt like God opened that door,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then I worked my butt off in hygiene school. I was valedictorian. I got Golden Scalar Award. I was at the top of my class, but I was terrified the whole time, like that I was going to mess it up. And so I just took it really serious and I made some really great friends. The instructors were incredible. And it truly was a passion of mine. Like I
Mhm.
was such a dental nerd. Like I so some of my good friends actually, you know, they became jaded. They turned like they complain now how they don't like dental hygiene and I was just like, "You're crazy." Like, I love it, you know?
Right.
I'm just a nerd like that, and I really truly did enjoy it. So that's how I got into dental hygiene. It
Mhm.
was, a long road, but it was, I don't know, it's a cool story. I feel grateful that that was my story, that
Yeah.
comment.
Collecting my thoughts here because it's such a provoking like example. I'm like, it just tells me more because you didn't take no, you
Yeah.
didn't take no. Like that's I didn't know that, but yeah, if the time elapses
Mhm.
on these courses, they become null and void.
Obsolete. Yeah.
And it's like that is a ton of work.
Mhm.
So that would crush people, the thought of that, but you kept going. Then you got the final no.
Mhm.
And that again, people be like, okay, I'm giving it everything.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, I am going to go in person. That takes a lot of like courage,
Mhm.
facing fear. Literally, it takes like some innovative like thoughts. And then because you could look at that and be like, well, yeah, you could have gone somewhere and they could have said no, but you didn't go somewhere else and they didn't say no. And in fact, there was extra chairs.
Mhm.
Like it's like a parting of the Red Sea.
Exactly.
And so I'm going to pull the quote that I love from The Alchemist, which is it's the story about a shepherd who goes on this journey. Santiago, he's the protagonist, and he pursues his dream. He's in Andalusia. He sells sheep so he can travel the world, even though he's told that's not it's going to be too hard for you. And but he reaches obstacles along the way, and he's walking through a village one day, and this mystical king named Melchizedek talks to him, and he says, the universe conspires in your favor when you are in pursuit of your personal legend.
Mm.
And I mean that right there is like you may not have known exactly what you would do
Yeah.
now,
Mhm.
but you just were driven by like this unction and purpose to go. And so I mean I definitely want to like find out more about like the what happens next in the story of Nicole.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, tell me like yeah, what so we can go to this part because then we can come back to more of your story. What yeah, that you mentioned God and you mentioned like this drive. So what I like to ask people is what's your personal legend?
Mhm.
It could be as simple as like what's your dream? Like Paulo Coelho, the author, he says that. But I look at it as like what is your purpose? Like what do you put on this planet to do?
Mhm.
And really what propels you?
Mhm. Yeah.
If you could share on that, I'd love it.
Sure. Yeah. Um, I think that, you know, it's a difficult question.
Mhm,
It's an interesting question. It's thought provoking
mhm,
for sure because there's so many things that I could say, but I think ultimately I think that my superpower is compassion and empathy. And I think that like healing through compassion is is a piece of my personal legend or,
mhm.
um my what I'm put on here to do, put on this earth to do.
Yes, yes.
And looking back at all of the big like chapters in my life, like marriage, children, dental hygiene school, myofunctional therapy, all of these things, they have come at a crossroads. So I shared that example of how I got into dental hygiene. Pretty much every chapter in my life has had something similar to that,
Mhm,
where I've really had to like it's not come easy, and I've been at a crossroad and I've really had to come to God and
mhm.
and say, what are we doing here? Like brought to the edge, and then God says, no, like I'm giving this to you. This isn't because you worked hard. This isn't because XYZ, this is because of my grace.
Yeah.
And so I think that that paired with the gifts that I think that he's given me, which again, my superpowers or my gifts, I think are compassion and empathy. I think that those two things have married well into helping me like establish why I feel like I'm here on this earth. And that is put out through, my relationships, whether it's my marriage, my friendships, motherhood, and then also with our patients here. And as you know, with my functional therapy, there's such a healing component.
Mhm.
Dysfunction is so layered and complex, and you have to meet people where they're at, and you have to listen, and you have to hear them, and I think that that's where you can really have success. We're not just throwing exercises at people. We're not just trying to strengthen things. It's deeper than that. And so, yeah, I think that I hope that that answers your question
Yeah,
in a roundabout
absolutely.
way.
No, totally. Yeah. Yeah, it made me think of so many things like, you know, when it comes to like the your purpose and I mean, because I think of like the healing and the compassion, the empathy, like I so see those in who you are,
Thank
as
you.
well as like the patients and as well as the team, which I want to talk to you about, like your
Mhm.
team. And so I see that so through in your family too, meeting your husband, kids, like it's
Thanks.
so evident. Um and I think like that's interesting because that's very foundational to who you are. And I think like the tabernacle and those that built it and then like Paul is known as a master builder, the apostle Paul, right? So it's like I think of like they found the craft that could um be the work of their hands
Mhm.
that would construct something physical on
Yeah.
this earth, whether it's a building or a
Mhm.
practice or your
Mhm.
vision of your team so that there could be a system and an ecosystem to which like the compassion and empathy that you've been given as gifts could have a place to work through other people
Mhm.
and so that that could stream out towards other people for more healing. So I feel like
Yeah.
I see like you as a craftswoman, craftsperson who's not only had your own, and then we got to get into like what exactly got you into myofunctional therapy, but went into Myo and then now you have a team and
Mhm.
you're like that takes a lot of crafting and it
Mhm.
takes a lot of skill to create that and and so it's like layer upon layer of vision plus purpose. So can you paint that picture of like what was it like then from dental hygiene and how did
Mhm.
you get into myofunctional therapy?
Yeah. Sure. So I had been a dental hygienist for like 9 or 10 years before I had even heard about myofunctional therapy. And like many myofunctional therapists out there, we initially hear about it because our children are, suffering from something.
Hmm.
So both of my boys had issues with tongue and lip ties. And as you know, I have
Hmm.
two young sons, they're 4 and 6. And so took them to a local provider for releases, and she knew that I was a hygienist, and she said, we should, like, you should look into myofunctional therapy.
Yeah.
We really need providers in the area, and I think that you'd be great. And at the time, I had a newborn and, a 2-year old. So that wasn't the time to pursue it. But I had, you know, the seed was planted
Mm.
and I started looking into it. And then it kind of fizzled a little bit just because I wasn't ready to take on something like that. Um, and then some time went by and I got an injury at work. I hurt my shoulder, which, as you know, I just had
Hmm.
surgery on it all of these years later. And I was really worried about the stability of my career as a dental hygienist with the
Hmm.
shoulder injury
Yeah.
because you're bent over, your arm is up. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty hard on your body.
Yeah.
And I had, you know, moments that I actually was questioning, like, what else can I do?
Mhm.
I don't think that I'm gonna be able to do this for, until I'm 60 or whatever. And And then the thought came back into my mind, about myofunctional therapy. And before that, actually, I had applied to an RDHAP program, which is, um, you know, something that you can do as a dental hygienist, an advanced certification that you can get to be essentially your own, like, work within your own license. You don't have to work under a hygienist, and you could start your own brick and mortar building, or you could travel.
Mhm.
And so I thought, oh, maybe I can do that. I can work less, kind of build my own schedule and just see a couple of patients a day and travel to them. I thought that'd be like less taxing on my body. So I had done all of the paperwork, I had done everything, and I was, accepted into this program. And then a week before it was about to start, there was a total shift.
Mhm.
And I remembered I started actually looking into what myofunctional therapy was.
Mhm.
And Sarah Hornsby, who started my own mentor, she had just like a free intro video. I think it was like 20 minutes or something, and I
Yeah.
watched that recording. And she gave a really like a great overview about the therapy and how it can help and what it is really. And after that video, it was like decided.
Wow.
I knew that I wasn't gonna do anything else other than this. It was just like a very zoomed in moment of
Mhm.
clarity. and they had a course that was starting a week later. And so I enrolled in the course. I, of course, talked with my husband, and there's no way that that Santa Barbara Maya would be what it is without him. He's been
Mhm.
so supportive, and he's had to over the last, 2 and 3 years picked up a lot of the slack at home, and
Mhm.
so he's fantastic, and he's been truly like an integral part of this.
Yeah.
But that's how I actually started my first myofunctional therapy course and started learning, and maybe like 2 months into the course, I was like, I am going to do this. It
Mhm.
was just such a deep calling that there was no question of if it was going to work out or not. It was just I just knew that it was going to work.
Mhm.
And so I took the business course with Melissa and Dave that I was telling you about. And right after that finished, I started Santa Barbara Myo.
So there's so many salient points there that like you can zoom in on. So, so there's too much that's significant there, but I mean, we just gotta say Santa Barbara Myo, what an epic name. Like you just had to be like, that's not taken, or like, I mean, clearly myofunctional therapy is pretty unique.
Yeah,
So you're not facing like 70 businesses
right.
that could like chiropractic, right? We have a lot of chiropractors. So
Yeah,
Santa Barbara chiropractic, yeah, it's probably taken. But
yeah.
Santa Barbara Myo though, like when I saw your name, the business name, I'm like, whoa, that is so from a marketing or just like
Mhm.
branding identity perspective, you had to have been like pinching yourself a little bit when you like
It was pretty
got
exciting.
that name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what year was that you started Santa Barbara Myo?
It was technically December of 2023.
It's just crazy how much you've done
Yeah.
in that amount of time. Because we're looking at like 3 years later,
Yeah.
right? Not even 3 years because
A
you
little
know,
less, yeah.
less than it's like 2-ish years.
Mhm.
And could you have imagined that you would be seeing this much growth?
No, it was like jumping off of a cliff for
Yeah.
sure. I finished the course. I signed a lease to the office space, which was, you saw that you worked out of that time
Yeah.
that you spoke about.
Yeah.
And like walking in there, like, okay, I'm
Well, you had this
obligated.
desk, I think, in there
It
too.
did.
So it was
It
like,
did.
but it was like just to speak of it, it was a tiny room, and now that room is like the one, like this office is like 10 times the size of that at least. I
Yeah.
mean, it's got many rooms. That's come in installments too. I know that it's not
Yeah.
overnight.
Yeah.
So yeah. So sorry, keep going.
No, that's okay. So yeah, it was scary, like
Mhm.
not only are you not a dental hygienist, but you're just leaping into this. There's actual bills that you're obligated to pay now. And at that point, of course, I hadn't had any of my own patients. I
Mhm.
I knew that myofunctional therapy worked, like, theoretically, based on other people's experience, both myofunctional therapists and patients, and research and everything, but I hadn't yet experienced that myself, and so there was so much unknown. I was terrified, to be honest. I still remember the
Mhm.
first exam that I did, and it was a big leap of faith for sure, but because I knew for a fact that I was supposed to be doing it, it gave me peace. And so I like went into it with the mentality that this is my calling. Like, God, the only reason that I have this is because of you. I kind of went into it with open hands, like, do with it what you will. I'm going to show up. I'm going to
Mhm.
work really hard. I'll do everything that I can. Um, but it was very much, yeah, I know I've said it, but a leap of faith.
Yeah. Well, and the leap is like so important because it's not a leap unless it feels risky,
Yeah.
and if it was sure, count onable and predictable, it's a step.
Yeah.
So leap really signifies like you don't know what's going to happen,
Right.
and you don't know like financially,
Yeah.
like practically.
Yeah.
You there's some you can like envision. I want to get into that too because well, I know you gave us like what's led to you but like if we go back in time
Mhm.
before you try those 5 times and then the sixth and knowing you've got like your faith and is there anybody like did that just come and is this just part of your resolve or do you feel like there's somebody that stands out as like like a person or just a time when you're like, you look back and you're like, I knew I just needed to keep going and pursuing. Is there anything like that that stands out to you?
In terms of pursuing, like, education or
I just mean your tenacity to envision and pursue and keep going.
mm,
Like what, like,
yeah.
is there like a mentor or
Mhm.
like, and I know you mentioned mentors that you've had, but
Yeah.
they weren't there
Right.
back then.
Yeah.
And so was there anybody
Yeah.
or
I see what you're
and
saying.
some people don't. It's like you're
Yeah.
just like, no, I was scared. I just didn't want to fail. I just, some of that.
Yeah.
So you can say if anything comes up is like the earliest time where you could feel like you saw something and you're like, yeah, or you can look back retroactively and you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, because of that person in my life. And I kind of think like through osmosis, and it's not always a person, it's more like this nature. I just see this nature now that's brought you to where you are.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what that's going to do moving forward because you're
Uh-huh.
only gaining more momentum.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think that so I'm the oldest. I have 6 younger siblings.
Hmm.
So, separated parents, so not all growing up in one household, but I think that I've always had that a little in me, just, like, leadership,
Hmm.
but I don't like, I'm actually quite shy and
Hmm.
introverted. Um, and it's funny, I think that in dental hygiene, that was the first time probably in my life that I felt ultra confident
Hmm.
and that I, like, excelled at something.
Hmm.
And when I'm, like, in my niche, I can come out of my shell.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's been the same for myofunctional therapy, but aside from that, I think that, yeah, I mean, I could speak to so many different individuals in my life that I grew
Hmm.
up with, yeah, I think that each person that I've like, in my immediate family that I've been close with, I've gleamed and absorbed
Hmm.
their giftings as well and things, but yeah.
And now, can you speak to this too? Because I think some people they're going to hear you've heard a little bit in the intro from me telling them, but I want you to expand a little
Yeah.
further. Like um, it's like two simultaneous things that you grew.
Mhm.
You grew a myofunctional therapy practice,
Yeah.
and you also saw ahead, right? And that you would build a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Like how did that work? Because it's kind of like
Sure.
you've done two separate things
Mhm.
and they overlay.
Yeah.
And I see that that's a lot to do.
Yeah, yeah, it like I said, it's been a wild last couple of years.
Uh-huh.
So, I had no idea what it was gonna turn into. I knew that I was going to do it. I knew that there was a huge need, and
Yeah.
I felt completely driven by the mission and
Mhm.
just, like, being a mother and seeing it in my own, children.
Yeah.
I saw how important it was, and so that was my mission, that was my drive, and there was never, like, a question if it was gonna succeed or not.
Yeah.
And so the first month, I, I worked really hard. I started going out there to different dental offices, doing so many lunch and learns,
Mhm.
just like organic marketing and
Mhm.
educating people. I think that and this is crazy to me given like how shy and I really don't like public speaking generally.
Mhm.
But I think that I had been a myofunctional therapist for a small handful of months, and I approached this study club in the Valley in San Ynez, and I said, "Hey, I'd love to speak to your providers about myofunctional therapy." And I gave a presentation to like 50 or 60 dentists,
Yeah.
and so it's like my alter ego coming out, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, I started getting out there and educating our community, and it organically grew. I didn't pay for, in fact, I did no marketing.
Mhm.
I just paid I last month was the first time that I spent money on marketing.
Mhm.
And it was just because it was my son's school. And I was like, sure, I will sponsor their jogathon
Yeah.
and, put our name on a t-shirt. It was kind of like a win-win.
Yeah.
But it has honestly happened very
Yeah.
organically,
Yeah.
which is cool.
That's
But
very cool.
I never expected that it would have grown as fast as it did.
Mhm.
And that certainly came with growing pains as well, because there was a time that it was just me and
Mhm.
I was getting referrals, taking calls, emails, reports while seeing patients. It was quite a lot. Um, but I just fell in love with it. The more that I did, I kept wanting to learn. I think the first year that I was my functional therapist, I took like 200 CEUs. I'm like obsessed with learning about it. And I think that that's probably what has helped me become a, a good myofunctional therapist is how much I am committed to learning, how much continuing education I take, and also just how we've been incredibly blessed with the referrals from our community, how many patients we've been able to help and see.
Mhm.
So there was definitely like a transition towards the end of that first year. So December was the first month that I had that office that you were at. And
Mhm.
then I moved out of that practice or out of that office in October. And then we've
Mhm.
been here since. So, and then slow growth. We had people coming on. Myra, who's our incredible receptionist, came on, and that was like such a weight off
Mhm.
because she could do all of the admin stuff, and that was really helpful. And then we've brought people on, other myofunctional therapists, and even that's happened organically. Every single person I have specifically asked, there was never like an application. I've known all of these people and can speak to their character, and I just knew that they would be fantastic. And so yeah, that specifically like last year was really mentoring them. And um, I'm still currently seeing patients. I have my own um, patient base, but I'm also mentoring and overseeing, like, get kind of in a clinical director role for all of the other myofunctional therapists. But I'm directly involved with every single patient that's in our practice. I'm here, every day. So
Mhm.
it's a lot to manage, but I'm so grateful and I love mentoring. I love teaching. So I think that I knew that I had that vision in the beginning. Like when I took that business course with Melissa and Dave,
Mhm.
we said, what's your 5-year plan? We kind of
Yeah.
brainstormed and we're able to dream, and I will never stop seeing my functional therapy patients. I love it. It's my heart. I love the connection. I love that. But there came a time that there's so much need that it couldn't just be me.
Right.
I mean, it could be, but then I'd have like a year or two waiting
Yeah.
list. And that's great for some providers
True.
that choose that. It's because there's pros and cons for both. But I just knew in my heart that I wanted to build something that could help a lot of people. And so that was like the organic growth that happened. So yeah, last year a lot of training, oversight,
Mhm.
and we're not going to be hiring anyone anytime soon. So
Sorry,
just
sorry, everybody. If you're disappointed, if you're like, I gotta join what's happening in Santa Barbara Myo, just for now at least, right? Until you have your next growth too. No, just kidding.
But no, it's our team. Oh my gosh, I could talk about each
Yeah.
person for hours. They're so fantastic. They're kind, they're humble, they're dedicated to learning. That was the most important thing is I want humble people that want to learn,
Mhm.
and I'm still learning. Every single patient that I see, I learn something from. And that's how you grow. The
Yeah.
minute that you think that you know it all, like, stop doing what you're doing, please, like, for the sake of the people that you
Mhm.
treat.
Yeah. Well, I know I love it too because you were just there's the there's a lot of things that stand out, but I was just thinking of like when you evaluated somebody and you could feel the thyroid gland
Mm,
and it was adhered and we've shared enough about it to where you're like I'm interested to see what you think, but it takes a keen eye for you to look at something and then think about it from someone else, my perspective,
mhm,
and wonder would I be able to lend help to this person? So you're really thinking about that person in front of you, what that person needs, looking outside of certain things that you've learned and then just a little bit over there. So I really I really value that because I think it's um it's like when you're looking out for people, you're willing to look and keep looking
yeah,
because there's it's just simple to see like we all need people need so much help and I really love that you recognized the need for what you do for myofunctional therapy and you're like yeah but I think also speaks to your the mission and the fact that you're like I know that there's a need and I'm 100% I think you said you were just like 100% confident about
mhm,
that
yeah,
and But it's like it's one thing to be like successful and start to see people get help. Then you have that like bringing on other people and mentoring, and so I think you have like very much like this nurturing, mentoring, um, and then I can only think you're instill. We could do maybe sometime we'll do like a really fun thing where we talk a little bit more about them or bring them in for like a
Yeah.
minute each,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so because I know you're like it's such a cool team here, and it just see how like there's the there's that atmosphere of positivity here that you
Mhm.
cultivate. There's a place of hope and solutions.
Yeah.
And so when I see these amazing people in their own right that they're doing their things, but they're coming in here and they're like plugging in and contributing
Mhm.
and part of an ecosystem that you've created. And for sure that takes energy, but I know you bring that from a place that's infinite energy, which is God. So that's the amazing thing. It's like
Mhm.
but yeah, I think you're and then you have the clinical director role that you're also overseeing their
Mhm.
cases. So what a cool thing. And yeah, some people might only be like or some people might not have that goal or role and
Yeah.
maybe like they're the therapist that's going to help a lot of people and that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
And you value that. And so I think though for some they're like they might not be the one to do everything, but they in the collaborative care model, we're really well versed for this, right? In the
Yeah.
airway and feeding world, and
Right.
you have to naturally be an interdisciplinary, and
Yes.
so that is true. It still takes an extra set of like hope and intention towards like thinking like I am one person, but my team they might be able to go into that more or that
Mhm.
more. So you definitely see that with your practice. So
Thank you.
it's really good.
Yeah, I've tried to teach in a way that we just stay curious,
Hmm.
we look at the photos, we look at the videos, everything together, and I say, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And I hear their thoughts, and they teach me things too. That's the cool thing about working with a team is that you get multiple eyes and everyone has a unique set of gifts and things that help them see different things. So it's really cool to be able to have that. And then to your point with collaboration, that's like at the key,
Hmm.
at the heart of our practice. And I think why it we have so much patient success is that it's never just myofunctional therapy. Like I said, dysfunction is so layered, and we never promise people that like we're going to solve all of your problems. Like, I mean, how great would that be if that
Yeah.
was the case?
Yeah.
But I'm really, really passionate, and I think that it is just a key part of what patients get when they come here is a very, very thorough evaluation.
Hmm.
So we lead with education. We go over a ton of education. That's where we start. And then, of course, really detailed medical history review. And then all of our assessments that we do, which we're really looking at the whole body, and not that we can treat the whole body, but in order to refer when we see something. And then after all of our intake assessments, we're sitting down with them and actually going through the photos, walking through the videos, and verbalizing, like sharing, this is what I'm seeing, this, XYZ. And then we lay out all of their options. So this is what I'm ultra passionate about. I think
Hmm.
my biggest pet peeve, and we have a lot of adults that come in here for sleep apnea.
Hmm.
My biggest pet peeve is when someone is given the sleep apnea diagnosis and they are told, here's a CPAP,
Hmm.
see you never,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And there are so many other things that can be done.
Hmm.
And they're not even, the providers are making the decision for the patient.
Hmm.
And that's just wrong,
Hmm.
you know? And not to speak badly of those providers. It could be that they're great at what they do, but they just don't know about it. But there are so many other things that can
Yeah.
be done.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're passionate about. We lay everything out on the table, for better or worse. Like
Hmm.
here is everything. And we try to have it not be overwhelming,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like at least put it out there
Yeah.
and say we can play air traffic controller. What sounds good to you? Like, what feels aligned with you? Some people maybe jaw surgery candidates, even, extreme deficiencies and multiple dimensions. And, they may just want to start with the therapy. And so I feel good about that as long as we lay everything out and we're upfront with, you know, um, expectations and we don't want to like promise, X, Y, or Z, but we can certainly make some improvements in this intention possibly, and maybe we can get you breathing through your nose more. We can work on optimizing your oral rest posture as much as possible within your current structure. So it's really, we provide the education, we provide what we see, and then we give it to the patient with open hands, and we say what feels good for you.
Mhm.
And we have patients that only want to do the therapy, and we have patients that are open to doing multiple things. And we're along for the ride, here to support them, whatever type of support they want and whatever avenue they want to pursue. But it's just all about educating and really informed consent,
Mhm.
because there's just they're not given enough information, and they come into this office because of that.
Yeah.
They come into this office, I've seen this provider, this provider, this provider, I've seen 10 specialists. I have this debilitating pain. No one knows what to do with me. No one believes me.
Mhm.
And here I am. I don't know. I'm desperate.
Yeah.
A lot of people come in desperate.
Mhm.
And it's pretty incredible when you can be with that patient on their journey. And now, I said in the beginning, it was all theoretical,
Yeah.
and now I know. So
Yeah.
when we get patients like that, I just smile and like I'm so happy inside, because I know that we can get them to.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to be able to like journey with patients through that, and just hold space for them, and be a support.
Yeah. Well, it's so you developed that history um, of helping people and seeing it, and yeah, like you said, you can now, out of a place of experience, speak
Hmm.
to like you can hold that hope, or at least the spark for them of like,
Right.
yeah. So that's so powerful, and I think also something you said is really good and important, and I think all of us as practitioners, or and then as a parent too, we can get stuck set by like it could be overwhelming when we think
Yeah.
like what's going on, what are the problems, and then when you're giving recommendations, you could say there's so much to make, but what I've seen is when I didn't give enough information and when I didn't give people the lowdown,
Hmm.
and I was just talking to one very recently who's a patient in Reading, and I told, and she went through a lot of good things. She's been helped, and I'm like, if only I knew more, I would have helped you more. And in this one area, if only I was clear in articulation with something, it
Yeah.
may have helped you go through less of a struggle with your expansion process.
Right.
So I think what you said is so good in that people just, especially when people come desperate,
Hmm.
some of them haven't heard anything about what you've shared with them and it's new.
Yeah.
Some people, they maybe haven't had somebody just say it like it is and say, this could take a lot.
Yeah.
And what do you, and so you give them the option.
Exactly.
So if they don't have the option,
Yeah.
and some people surprise us. They're like, "Oh, they're
Exactly.
going for it,"
Right.
and they
Yeah.
can. And there's
Yeah.
not everybody can do all the therapies,
Sure.
modalities, and or want to. And so I think it's really powerful that. And but I really love that second part too. I look at it as a second part where
Hmm.
you're like air traffic controller. You can hold space for them in that,
Hmm.
and then you're also like just happy to support them,
Yeah.
but because you can rest assured that you can support them knowing that they know about what else you've
Exactly.
recommended.
Otherwise, I've made the decision for them. I've
Yes.
decided what they want to do.
And some people, I can look back at my former, like at me in the past, I thought I was doing them a service.
Hmm.
And I think that's what we can get into is like, oh, we could think that we're preventing them from going through something uncomfortable or having to face
Right.
uncomfortable decisions,
Right.
but we can't. And you just said it. It's like you recognize that you need that's giving them agency, giving them
Exactly.
choice,
Yeah.
giving them a voice. So that's like
Yeah.
a really powerful through line
Yeah.
that I know is what people feel when they come here, because that's not everybody. And some of us, like I look back and I'm like, I've learned that. It took a while for me to learn that. No
Hmm.
way did I learn. And I can also say I'm careful here because it's not like you learn that in 2 years. You were dental hygienist for 9, 10 years.
Hmm.
So even though myofunctional therapy is new, clearly you carry a lot of wisdom and experience
Hmm.
that carries and supports that. So we're looking at like a practitioner who's been a practitioner for more than a decade,
Hmm.
and I do see that come through.
Thank
And
you.
you've had to like take that and put it into a very innovative field,
Mhm.
and you're doing it even in an innovative way within that. So that's impressive. So I think you feel that. I think people feel that too, of course, when they come here. So it's really
Thank
cool.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Um, I want to ask the second part of my question of personal legend. So I
Okay.
told you a little bit about this, but sorry, I kicked the mic there. So if if you look at personal legend, um, this second version of it as like a legend on a map. You know, I say this, but I used to open the Rand McNally map that my dad would get out when we would go on trips, or the road atlas.
Yeah.
Looking at the map, we're folded and it's taken over the front seat. But you look down, usually up or down in the corner, and you see a key
Mhm.
that tells you how far you've gone. Like if it's like from here to here on the map, an inch or so, that's like 10 kilometers or whatever it is. And then there's landmarks that show you, oh yeah, there's that blue over there, that's a body of water. So symbols, and I look at that as like ways that you navigate a map. So your map,
Mhm.
your life and your mission, and um, what are ways that you navigate, and what are the practices, or how do you stay tuned in to that personal legend of yours, to your
Mhm.
purpose?
That's a great question. I think that, oh man, I could say so many things. Continuing to learn.
Hmm.
That's obviously really important. Like having that desire to learn and the understanding that you don't know as much as you think you do. You actually just know the tip of the iceberg, right? So
Hmm.
continuing education is huge. Staying grounded is really important. I think the last couple of years, just with how much has happened, I've really had to. There's been times that I'm like, okay, this isn't sustainable.
Hmm.
I need to dial back. I need to ask for help. I need to do XYZ. So kind of just realizing what type of surrounding you're in and what's going to be sustainable and healthy for you, right? And then just staying humble, staying connected to God, staying connected to my family, my husband, my children. Like that's definitely like the most important
Hmm.
for sure. And those are the things that are going to ground me
Hmm.
to be able to provide care for our community.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think just staying humble, continuing to learn and staying grounded.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I got another. I'm just going to ask you a question, but it's really fun to think about. There's the local, like the Santa Barbara community
Mhm.
and the surrounding areas, which could be like you mentioned, Saint Inez is not too
Mhm.
far away,
Right.
and then you've got like collaborations in Agora Hills, and then LA, the Breathe Institute, and more than that too. And clearly, you've created an ecosystem to where you've sought out people, and you've like that, so that it's to people to find, to refer to as well. Um, and we have one in, like, it's funny how when I look back, and Dr. Yu and Agora is such
Yeah.
a cool
I
connection. But
love him.
what's wild is like, Selena is a breath worker, um, who is in that area. She's moved, but she was Electra on the American Gladiators.
Oh,
So she became a breath worker.
cool.
She focuses on breath, aerial yoga, and she talks about how pivotal God is. And actually, it was through a friend of ours back in Reading who said that they were doing virtual work with a breath worker that they
Mhm.
met through a somewhere, and it was Selena. And
Okay.
then we got connected, and so she said you need to talk to Timbri Lind, who is actually a myofunctional therapist in Agora Hills, who moved away. But Timbri's like, yeah, use my office. And so I did. And it was right next to Dr. Yu's office. And so we were connecting that way. But then through you, and the collaborative work you do with Dr. Yu, we got more connected to him. And it's kind of wild how these circles connect.
I know.
And so I know Dr. Zagi at the Breathe Institute's another one you collaborate with. Dr. Rumack and
Mhm.
Calabasas.
Yeah.
There's probably too many to name.
Yeah.
There's ones here. So yeah, can you speak to that? Like, what's it like to? Because some people, they're if they're not new, or if they're not familiar with myofunctional
Mhm.
therapy, they're just some people in the past have come on to speak about myofunctional therapy, but
Uh-huh.
that's a new lens, and then it's a Santa Barbara practice, but your practice kinda, like tell me, like, how far does it go? Like, who do you collaborate with, or, like, how are you d and then I know there's virtual work as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
So, kind of explain that, what it's like to have a local business
Mhm.
and one that extends beyond the area.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, we do have virtual patients. About 30% of our patients are purely virtual.
Mhm.
We can have just as successful therapy virtually, which is really nice. The
Yeah.
intake process is a little bit trickier, just more on the patient side. There's more homework for them. We give them like very detailed PDF and photo examples of photos that they need to take of themselves and measurements. And so we do our best to kind of get all of the information that we need. It absolutely can be done, and we've had a ton of really successful cases virtually, which is great. Because the truth is there is an issue with access to care. I think that in-person therapy, for kids, I think that it can be really valuable. I
Mhm.
think that generally speaking, especially young children are
Mhm.
probably going to do much better in person. But for adults, especially after COVID, so many of us we're in this virtual world and we're doing Zoom appointments and it's more convenient. And so, and again, the access to care, there's not very many myofunctional therapists. And so it could be that it's a, who knows, a 5 6 hour drive to the closest one, or maybe they don't even have one in the state. So yeah, we thought it really important to be able to offer that our services virtually. But yeah, the nice thing is that there are, as I said, it's a very niche community, even if it's out of state, right? We all kind of know each other.
Mhm.
And there are great directories, even if, we have, I can't even count how many patients out of state we have. But I'll give you an example. So we have a patient who lives in Nashville, and she, reached out. We started her therapy, and she needed a tongue tie release. And so I go onto the Breathe Institute directory, and I'm
Mhm.
searching for ambassadors, and I, it lists, so basically anyone that's had education can be listed on that directory, had education with the Breathe
Right.
Institute. So I do some research, I'm looking into all of these people, and I find a really great practitioner
Mhm.
and connected them, and she just did a really beautiful tongue tie release
Mm.
on our
Mhm.
patient. I mean, incredible results. So that's the nice thing, is that it is totally doable. And even if I don't know someone in that state or in that area, I can reach out to my colleagues and look at directories and do a little bit of research. So it's nice. It's actually not as hard as you would think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is good. I mean, I feel like there's people who I'm gonna need, you're gonna hear this and like you can look up. Oh yeah. So for people who want,
Mhm.
it's gonna be in the show notes, but just for people that are only listening,
Yeah.
how can people find you and where can they look into what you offer? And when people reach out, what does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. So our website is santabarbara.myo.com. We have a really great website. There's a ton of education on there. There's research posted. It's a robust website, and we worked really hard to make it helpful to our patients. So you can absolutely find us there. Um, and obviously, our contact information is on the website as well. We also offer free 15-minute phone consults for patients. So I would say that like 95% of the patients that we actually see as new patients, first, we're doing those free 15-minute phone consults. And that is specifically to hear a little bit more about you, hear more of your story, see what challenges you're facing, and see if we think that you'd benefit from an exam. And so that's also available to you. And yeah, so
And again, like if people are like, I love that. Yeah, like you could speak to people and say like, by the way, Mayo is MYO. It's not Mayo.
oh,
Most people
yes,
say
thank you for
Santa Barbara Mayo.
clarifying.
It's not
Yes.
a mayonnaise company. No, I feel like most people would get that. And a lot of people get myofunctional and myofascial.
Yes.
There's countless people,
Yeah.
they think I'm a myofunctional therapist.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I do myofascial work,
Yeah.
but I'm a body worker. I'm a
Yes.
manual therapist. I'm a
Yes.
chiropractor, right? A myofunctional
Yeah,
therapist is so different. So
it is.
sometimes I say yeah, orofacial myology.
Mhm,
You might say
mhm.
that, or
Right.
um, so Santa Barbara Myo. Yeah, clearly you gave that. That's great. So, but some people are like, I don't know why I would need
Yeah.
you. So, could you give us like a 1 to 2 minute, like,
Sure.
tell people like if you've got this and this, you might need myofunctional therapy, and consider
Yeah,
that 15 minute range.
absolutely. So, myofunctional therapy, I kind of liken it to physical therapy, but for the muscles of the face and mouth. We're not physical therapists, just to be clear. It's not manual, it's all hands off. It's exercise based. So essentially, we are identifying dysfunctional patterns that are present and working to create new neural pathways to replace those dysfunctional patterns. So it is not just about strengthening. A strong tongue doesn't mean that it's going to be functioning correctly. It doesn't mean it's going to live in the correct place, and it doesn't mean that it's going to perform tasks that it needs to without compensation. So it is there are some strengthening aspects, absolutely, but we're also working a lot on proprioception. Teaching the tongue where it needs to live, and then also equally decreasing compensation. So many of us that have orofacial myofunctional disorders, and I'll give you some examples of those in a minute, our bodies adapt and we compensate to make up for that. So one thing that I always love to tell people is the three functions of the face are to breathe, eat, and communicate. But how we measure a healthy face is to be able to do those three things with minimal energy.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's a
that's
really
good.
important piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some examples of myofunctional disorders, you could have jaw pain, you could be clenching or grinding at
Mhm.
night, you could be mouth breathing, you could be snoring, you could have, chronic nasal congestion, tongue resting low in the mouth. There's so many different things that I could speak to, but the overarching goal of myofunctional therapy really is to improve airway health and to optimize oral rest posture. So it's kind of a fancy way of saying we want you breathing through your nose. We want your lips together at rest without any tension or strain. There shouldn't really be any muscle activation there. And we want the whole tongue up on the roof of the mouth during the day and the night. We also go into chewing and swallowing, things like that as well. But the whole purpose of the therapy is we really want to get you to a point that your oral rest posture is optimized. And that is going to set you up for a future of good airway health. So, good breathing, good sleeping, good oral function. And again, um, breathing, eating, and communicating with minimal energy.
Yeah, so good. And the ages how young do you see?
Yeah.
And I know the question of like, am I too old for myofunctional therapy is never.
No,
And
never.
there's never an end to how much you can improve. And
Yeah,
some people are like, but I've lived my whole life with all this, and I'm like, yeah. And then they feel a little better, and then they're like, oh, I didn't realize how much energy I
totally.
was using until I freed it up, and
Yes.
now. So it's kind of like I'm like everybody on the planet could use this.
Yeah,
Yeah, what in particular, like how early
sure.
can people start, and more on that?
So technically, within my scope as a dental hygienist who's a myofunctional therapist, and really for anything to be considered myofunctional therapy, we're really working with children age 4 and older.
Mhm.
So any individuals 4 or older. Anything younger than 4 is more considered like feeding therapy, oral motor therapy. You'd be with like a pediatric SLP,
Mhm.
OTPT, something like that. But to your point, age, there's no age limit.
Mhm.
My oldest patient has been 87.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that you can do throughout the lifespan. And what's interesting is so many times we get referrals for young children, their dentist sends them to us and the parents come in.
Yeah.
And so we go through the full exam and mom and dad are like, I'm going to make an appointment for
So
myself. And yeah, we actually just finished a case with a dad who he brought his son in and he thought he was thriving. He didn't realize he had any dysfunction. And he asked me some questions. He's like, well, how would I know that do you see anything wrong with me? And I take a glance and of course I do.
Mhm.
And I start asking him about his sleep. And I'm like, you know what? If you're on the fence, I would recommend an exam, but if you need some convincing, why don't you do an at-home sleep study? And he did it and he had severe sleep apnea
Mhm.
and he didn't even know.
Wow.
And so we went through the whole process. We completed his myofunctional therapy and he did some other things as well. And he's a different person now. He didn't know how poor his sleep was.
Mm.
And that's the thing, is that when you are suffering for so long, and so many adults, we all are, when we just don't know because it's all that we've known.
Mhm.
And so when you get um a glimpse of what it's like on the other side, it really can be life changing.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good. Well, yeah, as we kind of come close to our conversations and yeah, it's like this question is more like I'm so impressed by what you've done in this amount of time in your myofunctional career. I can only think like, you talked about a 5-year plan that you had, right? And that's carried you into
Hmm.
there's like part of you you're fulfilling part of that. So
Yeah.
whether it's up ahead in the next couple of years or whether you go like 20 years into the future, 2046. I know we're not like you can't know what the next day will bring.
Yeah.
There's wisdom in that saying, right? But if you look like 20 years ahead and look back at yourself to Nicole and say like what would you hope to have accomplished, or it's maybe one thing, or is there something you've seen where you're like, I know, or I hope, or I desire that in 20 years you could look back and say, I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to look back and know that I was a piece of making this known, making this streamlined, and where, I mean, any parent that has, brought their children to appointments, how many questionnaires do you fill out, right? So many questionnaires when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's no screening for
Mhm.
airway or questions about sleep or breathing. And I think that is changing. It's slow, very slow, but it is changing. And I just would love to know that I was a part of educating, of continuing the growth, continuing the progression that we're starting to make, and where everyone knows that we should be breathing through our nose and that our
Mhm.
tongue should be up. And because if we can really get to that place where this, and it really does have to start with the providers.
Mhm.
It has to start in the institutions that are teaching these providers. But if we can get to that place, we literally will have a different world,
Mhm.
And so that excites me, thinking about just being a part of that process, whether it be just in our community or even further than that, whatever the reach, whatever God has for me. But yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I would answer that.
Yeah. Well, very cool. I'm inspired by your story.
Thank you.
I feel like there's more. We'll have to do this again, and yeah, we'll talk again. But I feel very glad that we could do this too, and
Yes.
I've really loved collaborating with you and being in your world here and being part of the office has been such a beautiful thing. So yeah, thank you for what you're doing, and yeah, I just know your message is gonna inspire people, whether it's like to know more about, yeah, there's answers now. Like
Yeah.
they'll see, oh, there's answers. Or also some people are like they're helping people, but your visionary mind of like how you wouldn't take no.
Hmm.
And then you've created an ecosystem. So I feel like there's so many points of inflection here where people can draw inspiration from.
Thank you, Neil.
So
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
yeah.
I'm privileged to be here and to speak to your audience. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on my Compromised to Alchemized podcast. Oh
Yes.
yeah, I didn't. It's my mug I like to drink out of, and
This is my mic
it's
too.
so we're here in the office, right? Drinking out of our mugs, Santa Barbara
Cheers.
Myo, right there. Good. So yeah, pass this along. Share this with somebody would benefit from knowing any of this information, and it's a thing. Copy paste, send it to somebody, even if you're like you don't know if they would listen to it. This is so good. So I want you to share it. Let us know what you think. Reach out. Obviously, Nicole's info, and love to hear what you think. And I'd love to know what this inspires in you. So thank you so much again for
Thank
being on the
you.
Compromised Podcast.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, we'll stay tuned for more adventures from
Until
Nicole.
next time.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the Compromised to Alchemized podcast. Really excited to thank Jessica from Lunalux for the music, this track called Major. I want to thank Toshi, who originally did the design work for my cover art. And then I also want to thank Alyssa from my team for podcast publishing, my whole team, including Kat, for heading up my world. And then also definitely want you all to follow me on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Comment, give us a rating, and also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Neil Bulchandani so you can stay tuned to my latest. Thanks so much, and you have an amazing day.
This is major.